her memoirs were published earlier this year, Anhua Gao became the latest in a string of Chinese authors to write about their experiences in Mao's China. The genre has become something of a publishing sensation, with titles like Wild Swans and Life and Death in Shanghai spending weeks on the bestseller lists around the world. Jennifer Lee now examines the phenomenon of China's Cultural Revolution writers.
It was the worst of times, from the Japanese occupation to the communist takeover, from the Great Leap Forward that starved tens of millions to the Cultural Revolution that crushed the spirit of the nation. For more than half a century, China suffered. For many Chinese today, those years of turmoil remain painfully vivid.
With the Chinese, I think we do have very dramatic lives this century, and people's lives have been turned upside down many times. And at such times, of course, you inevitably have more drama, have more stories, more, tragedies, heartbreaks, whatever stuff that, books are made of.
Yong Chang is the author of Wild Swans, an epic memoir recounting the hardship and trauma experienced by 3 generations of her family in 20th century China: her grandmother, her mother, and finally herself. First published 10 years ago, Wild Swans has since sold millions of copies in dozens of languages. More significantly, it has inspired a new genre of modern literature. Among the string of recently published memoirs, some common themes emerge. They are set mainly against the horrors of revolutionary China, they're penned in English, and they're written by women who ultimately found salvation in the West.
I think women tend to open their heart more easily than men, so maybe their stories move people more.
Yong Zhang and me, we both married an Englishman. We could get out of China in this way, and many men, they still stay in China. They couldn't get out of China.
So their voices can't be heard.
Those people, those men, they got out of China. They majored in scientific research and other fields. They had no time to write, maybe. Women and men are different. We don't want to endure that far and that deeply. But men probably, they can endure. That's different. We want to speak out to feel better.
Anhua Gao is the latest Chinese woman to pen her memoirs. To the Edge of the Sky is a harrowing account of how she first struggled with and then against the ideological machine of Red China. It is a story of spousal abuse, public humiliation, senseless imprisonment, and shocking betrayal. It is a story Anhua Gao needed to get off her chest.
All those years, everything was in my mind, especially when I was sitting in the cell of jail, and I told me repeatedly, I must write it down one day, I must write it down.
She has a serene look about her now, but she didn't have that then. Her eyes were tormented. And so when she decided to write, I said, yes, you must. And as she got it out of her system, you could see her lightening, her moods changed, she became happier, more confident, and today she's a totally different woman from that wounded person who came to Britain.
Adeline Yanma is another woman transformed by the catharsis of putting her pain on paper. A retired physician today, Yanma was the unwanted child of a wealthy family in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Her book, Falling Leaves, recounts her upbringing under the control of her malicious stepmother, passive father, and disloyal brothers and sister. It is a horrifying chronicle of abuse set against the political upheavals of 20th century China.
It was a story that I've wanted to write all my life, but I didn't realize it then that I could not have written it while my parents were alive. But after my father died in 1988 and my stepmother died in 1990, I felt compelled to write my story. And once I started at that time, all the words poured out of me. As I wrote, I started sleeping better, and my outlook definitely improved, and my appetite also. And even my bowel habits became more regular. It was like everything I have bottled up and dared not say as a little girl growing up in Shanghai and Hong Kong is finally out. And in a way, I suppose my book was a quest for justice.
Justice did finally come. Falling Leaves has sold more than 1 million copies worldwide, with a follow-up book to be published later this month. For Yen Ma, it's a triumph for all Chinese women.
Chinese women have been silent for so long, and finally we're speaking up. And we survived in a world where the women counted as nothing. And every day you just felt completely disposable, like a piece of garbage. And you were treated as such. But of course, inside you felt it, but there was no way of expressing it. And I think it's time that Chinese women express themselves and have a voice.
But the only women being heard are those who have successfully fled China, where books such as Wild Swans continue to be banned.
In China, under Mao, nearly all writers were condemned or suffered one way or another. You know, for example, Wild Swans is not allowed to be published in China. Only books that tell the official line can be published. So people simply don't know.
If I was still in China, my story could never be told.
As China opens up, more newly liberated Chinese will feel compelled to tell the full story. And with English-speaking readers largely proud of the liberal ideals of the West, tales of anguish and injustice wrought by the East will continue to be popular.
Thank you.
And after the break, Jennifer Lee talks to the latest Chinese author to hit the literary big time, Anhua Gao. Stay with us.